Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Press for Truth. I'm your host, Dan Dix, and today we have a very special show for you. We are joined in studio by the one and only Richard Heathen of the LibertyMachineNews.com. So, Richard, man, thanks for joining us in studio today.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Now, I don't think I've interviewed you since the release of your film, Hidden Influence, The Rise of Collectivism. What's the response been so far? I mean, how is it being received? I see it's getting a lot of views. What's the response been?
Well, the response has been mixed. It's been fairly polarized. Either it's been, oh my God, this is great, this is kind of encapsulating everything I've kind of thought, and the opposite side is hatred, vitriol, which honestly was to be expected when you're challenging the cultural norms of a society the way I was in my film.
Mm-hmm. Well, collectivism to a lot of people, they feel maybe the reason there's such clash is because people think, aren't we all one? Can't we all be one big happy family? How do we explain to people who think that, can't we all just get along as one big happy family isn't going to work under, a tyrannical government, that's for sure.
Well, if you look historically, all regimes, totalitarian regimes, they've used the greater welfare of the collective as a pretext. There's an old saying, I think it goes something to the effect of the excuse for saving the world or the betterment of humanity is almost always an excuse to rule. The fact of the matter is only a system built on self-ownership and recognizing that people are unique individuals is one that respects liberty and freedom. Because if you put on as your number one goal or aspect of goal for society is to protect the collective, then the individual will always be subservient to that collective. That's why it's so important for the individual to come before any sort of collective good.
Mm-hmm. Well, how does this play into just all-around socialism, which we're starting to see more and more of all over the world? It's like as if things are turning almost all out communist. What is socialism?
Well, socialism is basically a brand of it's communism light, really. It's again the idea that that society has to take care of the masses, and that the welfare and the interests of the individual are subservient to the larger group. And socialism also has a lot of economic assumptions, like that capitalism is bad because it's exploitive, when all capitalism is voluntary exchange of goods and services between individuals using an agreed upon medium of exchange. Now the difference between a true capitalist market and what we have now is central banking. What we have is an elite through the government with partnership with the government have a monopoly on the issuance of currency. So they can lend it to the big banks, the Federal Reserve, in the United States, because that's basically central bank because the United States is the world's reserve currency. So the Federal Reserve lends the money to the banks, and the banks they lend the money to the banks at a very, very small interest rate. Then the banks go on and they lend that money to everyone else at a greatly inflated interest rate, and they get the money first before it goes through the economy and devalues the currency. So the problem is with the economics of socialism is central banking and all these things. And communism is kind of a lot like that, except communism does away with any sort of pretense of private ownership. And there's more than just socialism and socialism and communism. There's fascism. There's all sorts of other authoritarian paradigms outside that. In fact, I'll be doing a short film coming up soon on the potential rise of fascism as a pushback to the excesses of the far left. Because if you look throughout history, a lot of times fascist movements do arise as a pushback to nationalist pushback to the far left.
Okay, well, let's look at it from the Hegelian dialectic perspective. Let's say that capitalism is the thesis, and communism is the antithesis of that. What is the synthesis? What is the end game? What do they want to see come out of a clash of those two ideologies?
Well, I think it is a corporate welfare. It's Anthony Sutton used the term corporate socialism. So you have corporate socialism, I guess, for corporatism for the rich, where they get subsidies, handouts, and the market's greatly regulated. They'll have a dependent class, so people won't rise up, and it'll be very hard for an individual to rise up and make his claim in the world, be a strong, empowered individual, and challenge the elites who want this corporate socialism and have talked about it since the early 20th century.
Mm-hmm. At what point along the stage of this does it reach the point of becoming all-out fascism? Or are we there? Are we? Maybe we're there already. Or when do we get there?
Well, the thing about fascism, it's a word that's overused in today's society. It's actually, fascism, I've been looking into it, and it is a very specific ideology with very specific characteristics. Now, we're not like, some people would call Harper a fascist. He has fascistic tendencies, certainly, but he's not a fascist if you look at the historical context of what a fascist is. For example, he called an election today. Most fascist regimes within the first few years of becoming into power, the first goal is to remove the democratic process. Also, fascist regimes they're anti-capitalist, they're anti-markets, they're also anti-socialist. They're unique. It's a unique ideology, and one characteristic of it is it's anti-left, but it's also very pro-masculine, which is why I think with the excesses of feminism and other leftist ideologies, fascism could again come on the rise, because what you'll have is, here's the thing, so feminism has, and I'm not talking about the first wave, women want to vote type of feminism. I'm talking about the radical third wave feminism I talk about in my film. Mm-hmm. They've devalued and debased masculinity. They've made masculinity a negative thing. So eventually you repress all that masculine energy. It's going to have to come out. People are going to rise up, and it's just anything you oppress is going to push the other way. Mm-hmm. So that's why I think it's very possible we could see a rise of an actual real fascist movement here in not just Canada but anywhere in the West. Because fascism is a very specific ideology, and it's a word that gets overused in today's society.
Is it possible then to counter the system through the system? And I know you're doing a lot of great work with the Libertarian Party of Canada. Is that a platform for you to reach the hearts and minds of Canadians and let them know about liberty, or is this something that you're hoping to somebody to actually win, or is it more like a platform like Ron Paul used in order to spread the message?
For me, the political platform is just that. It's a platform to speak truth and spread the message of liberty, because for whatever reason, people will take people on that stage more seriously than the average person. You're only going to change things politically if society is already going in that direction. Because let's think if Tim Moen got power tomorrow. He would be utterly impotent. Everything he would try to do, if he tried to shut down, let's say, the post office or anything, the hordes the looters would cry bloody murder anytime their entitlements were touched, anytime their socialist holy grails were, and even came close to have the slightest bit of cuts. Harper is hardly even close to a fiscal conservative, but anytime he makes the slightest bit of cuts to the bureaucracy, they cry bloody murder. So for me, the end goal isn't making government, although it would be good to get Tim a seat, because then he'd be able to really truly be that Ron Paul figure in Canada and speak truth to power. He'd have even a bigger platform. But for me, it's not about that. It's not about the actual changing the system from within. Mm-hmm. It's about using that stage to speak truth and to light brush fires in the minds of men and women and bring them to liberty.
Yeah, why not? With such a powerful platform and such a powerful stage and so many people watching, use that stage to get the messages of liberty out there, and hopefully it'll start to resonate with people, and maybe it'll catch on and they'll start to think, hey, you know what, these are kind of the ideas that I'm in tune with and that resonate with me. So that's why I'd have to agree. I think it's a good thing. And if he did get in there, if Tim Moen did get a seat, how incredible would that be to be able to get these ideas, anti-collectivism ideas out there to the masses? That would be a beautiful thing. So where can people go if they haven't seen the film yet? First of all, where can they go to watch it and also support your work by getting the DVD?
Well, you can watch it free on YouTube. The name of the film is Hidden Influence, The Rise of Collectivism. You can also get a DVD or buy a digital download at my site, libertymachinenews.com.
Sweet. Check the links in the description, guys. It's an amazing film, and check the links to where you can get the DVD to support the work of Richard Heathen. Once again, man, thanks for joining us today.
All right, thanks for having me.